Hi, thanks for joining us. So this is the second video in a little trilogy we're doing about what to expect from each of us in our upcoming retreat, Unapologetic Retreats in the Algarve of Portugal in October. We will be hosting this incredible week, it's just over a week, from the 21st to the 29th of October. I'm Jill Mokes. I'm a business coach and growth strategist. I'm joined with my co-hosts here, Lauren Jones, who is a brand architect and owns a fabulous creative brand agency, and Alicia Rodriguez, who is a retreat host herself, but also an incredible mindset coach, as well as a writer and a catalyst, I would say, a catalyst for change, for absolute transformation. So if you didn't catch the first video where we were quizzing Alicia on her part of the Unapologetic Retreats, do go back and watch that one. But in this video, I want to introduce you to Lauren Jones in a little more detail and really explain how the brand part of the retreat is going to work and what that will be delivering. So Lauren, I have a really fundamental question to ask you that I think you and I probably both get asked a fair bit. And that is, what is brand and what's the difference between brand and marketing?
Oh, the top question. Top question. Yes.
That's our top FAQ.
Top FAQ. It's always one of those things. You work in branding, you do marketing. That they are very, very different disciplines. And I would distinguish brand from branding too, if I may, if you indulge me.
You absolutely may.
So brand is really the core principles, the foundational strategic articulation of the idea. I would say that is the real sort of bedrock that everything's built on. Branding is the visual and verbal attributes and assets that come off of those principles, off of that strategy. So that's the kind of the personality, the stuff that gets created off of that core principle. I would then argue from that is an activation with your audience is marketing. So the brand feeds the messaging. It helps you understand the audience in terms of where they show up, how to communicate them, what's going to engage them, what are their fears and motivations, how do we get that emotional hook with them. That really comes from the brand strategy or a deep understanding of them. The branding is, well, okay, what visuals, color palettes, tone of voice, key messaging is going to communicate our vision of the world and resonate with that audience. And the marketing is really the kind of the invitation. It's the hook out into that audience to entice them in. And the activities of that is very data driven largely. There's a lot of stuff, there's content strategy that sits in the middle too. But the pure marketing strategy is really that activation out in your channels of your audience to invite them in. So, Martin Neumeyer has this beautiful visual depiction of a series of silhouettes. And he says that marketing is, the man saying to the woman, I am a great lover. Whereas the brand silhouette is the woman saying to the man, I understand you're a great lover. And it's such a subtle difference. Rather than the telling, it's the understanding and the knowing. And that's the difference between the brand and marketing.
I also,
that's a great
just in response to that, which is a really great explanation of it, and luckily you and I really agree on this as well, because sometimes there's a conflict between brand and marketing almost, isn't there, with everyone trying to grab their bit of real estate. But we really agree on this. And I mean, I do a lot of work with people on their marketing, and I am adamant that without a great brand, you have nothing worth marketing.
Amen.
So the work with Lauren, the work with Lauren is just so integral. It's going to be a fantastic part of this retreat that women are going to get to experience you in motion.
And I just want to bring up that I recently worked with Lauren, on my own branding. And I've worked with other branding specialists over the years, like 20 something years. I don't even want to think about how long. I will say for Lauren, I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about your approach, because when I worked with you, it was so different than any other approach I'd had. It, like before, it just felt kind of transactional, I guess. I didn't not have that sense with the work we did together. You're very intuitive. You ask really good questions. But your understanding of like that person's brand. Like when I first saw the mood board, and I was just knocked, I was just knocked out of the park here. I was like, how did you realize that? So I have to say one thing. Part of what she did, which I had no idea you were going to do, Lauren and Angel, and now they've both been here in the Algarve with me. You all know how important the cliffs are to me, and the ocean. And when I saw the mood board, I saw the cliffs, I saw the ocean in the colors, in the palette, in the feeling of it. That is something I consider quite extraordinary, because I never said that, but you just brought it out. So I would
You
really
did.
like
You just didn't know it.
I guess I guess
They were
right.
little and this yeah.
You just like nailed it. And so your approach is really different. So I'd love for you to tell our audience, like, what is that approach, and who is your ideal client, and why? Because the experience of doing the branding process with you was so very different, that I think it will resonate with the people who want to come on this retreat and have them walk away with that kind of experience.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying all that, Alicia, because it was an absolute delight to work with you. I mean, I'd say, you were an ideal client, but we can come back to that. In terms of the process, so yes, things can be quite transactional, and I would say, there's a lot of rogue branders out there that will claim to do branding, and then they, either stick you on a course, or it's a cookie cutter approach, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. The only way that I know how to do branding is to absolutely understand the individual that I'm working with to such an extent that I'm crawling around in their heads. So I do tend to work with female founders. I will also work with impact focused leaders in social enterprises and foundations. And they're often leaders, but I do still get to know them. So how we do that is by asking lots of really good questions, but also asking broader stakeholders or people in their environment. So we often interview, board members, other team leaders, try and get a nice cross section across a team if it is a team. So all different layers to get a really good, well-rounded, and all different departments. We want to talk to the people that are in the detail, to the people that are in the leadership and the big thinking and everything, and the management in between. With people like yourself, Alicia, I spoke to your best friends, I spoke to your oldest clients. I've really spent hours getting to know that is kind of what's running this thing. Where's this idea coming from? Because if I can understand that source, then I can better understand and unmodel, I always say, the unmodeling of the idea, of then how it becomes clearer how that really you want it to show up. And yes, there's a bit of intuition. So to your point, you dropped a lot of hints. There was a lot of patterns in your language in particular, and in your people's reflections of you in particular, that said, well, this is really wholly important to you, this place. And the part of your process and your thinking was the cliffs, like to your point. And I hear that again, time and time again, with other clients. I will hear these little golden nuggets and realize they're joined by a thread, and I just have to pull on them. And then that's that narrative, and that core principle, or those core principles, and the whole glue that holds it together really sort of starts to come through. And so I often say that once I've done this deep dive discovery piece that talks to, speaks to the stakeholders, looks at I say competitors in a very loose brackets, and I can explain that more in the week in terms of why that's not a thing. That's another podcast. But understanding audiences and who you really want to serve, you know, all of those things. And I really just put a mirror up, but you're so close to it, sometimes you don't see the patterns, and it's right in front of you often. And it just takes someone to have ask that different question, look at it in a different way, look at the angle of the mirror slightly differently, and it kind of really comes out. And from that, we then feed into a creative brief that I work with a very talented copywriter. I have a fantastic senior designer that we then really start to put meat on the bones and bring it to life through words and visuals that, you know, hopefully really resonates with not just the founders, but also with the audience and who they're serving.
Yeah.
Amazing
Awesome.
process. And Alicia, you're such a good example, aren't you, of
I
what
was
can
like,
come out the other end of that process? Because yeah, your brand is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I didn't answer the second point actually about the ideal client. And as I said, Alicia is an ideal client in that it's a woman that's in a point of transformation, usually in a business that is either outgrown a brand, and you know, that is kudos to you. If you are looking at your brand and it's like, I can't stand it, or it's just not where we are anymore, then you've done great growth. So honor that. We want to, you know, we always try, if it's a rebrand of something that's been, we really try to honor what's worked in the past and bring that into amplify it into a new life. But if you're starting out on something new, grown up startup, or amplifying your own message that you're outside of your business, if you're doing a personal brand, anyone that's in that, they're needing some support with that very scary nudge into change, into a pivot, into transformation, amplification, then that's my ideal client. That's who I love to support. Someone that actually, because women often tend to be the ones that aren't afraid to ask for help and allow people to come in and support them and be vulnerable and ask the questions and do the work. It's all part of it. And I'm there for them every step.
Yes, you are.
Of that. Yes, you definitely are. Yeah. I'm intrigued about how that process, what parts of that, and how were you bringing that into this week that we're going to have with the women? What can the women who join us expect to be working on with you over that week? What will the process be?
Yeah, so obviously I'm going to have follow on from Alicia. So that's tapping into the unlocking of potential and the limitless belief kind of pattern breaking. That's where I receive them, and to then ask the bigger questions of the big idea. That's how we're going to start off the day. There's going to be a little bit of education in what we talked about up front in terms of, okay, this is actually what it's really about, and this is the role that all of these important different activities like advertising, marketing, PR, and branding, how different they are and what role they play in your business. A little bit of education, but then we're going to dive straight in and we'll start to curate the questions that really sit at the heart of a beating heart of the business, this new proposition that they're building. So, talking about purpose statements or mission statements, vision, whatever it is that's relevant to your organization. But really the fun stuff is getting into the personality piece, which is often a bit scary for people that don't see themselves as creative. Everyone's bloody creative. I don't care what you say. Everyone can tap into that. So I'm trying to bring out that from Alicia's sort of limitless. I'm trying to amplify their ability to think creatively. And again, that's kind of getting to big sky thinking, but then also get playful with that. So we're going to have some visual cue cards, we're going to have voice work, we're going to get very tactical and tangible and start building out a visual and verbal mood board in terms of what this thing could be. So that's we get to play and I can't wait.
And we know how powerful that is. Building out the mood board is just, I had the privilege of being in on that meeting as well with both of you when Alicia had the reveal for her mood board, and her face was just, it was just such a picture, Alicia. It was a really special moment.
It was special. I think sometimes it's the first time women feel seen. They feel like they've been seen.
It was
yes,
definitely, that's a
right.
really great way of putting it. and seeing like where you are today, not seeing like the way people who already know you see you, but you've grown past that and they don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden you work with Lauren and there's this physical manifestation called a brand about who you are and how you run your business and stuff. And you, and I think that's a great way of saying it, is to be seen. And I think women in particular don't how should I say it? They limit themselves in terms of how much they step out, because there's a vulnerability aspect of it.
Right.
To be vulnerable,
Right.
to be able to do that and be seen fully.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you have a room full of
Yeah.
experts and supportive women to help you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I want to follow on that and just kind of ask you, so you've talked a little bit about the approach you're going to have during the week. How does that segue into Jill's portion? Because that will be the next portion of the retreat. How does brand then kind of support that movement into a marketing and business strategy?
Yeah, and I know that Jill also looks around business modeling as well, which is a big part. So, you know, getting clear with yourself, having a good talking to from Alicia to get yourself ready for what's to come, getting clear with the idea of what you and how you want to stand up and how you want to show up, what's the legacy you want to leave, who you want to serve, and getting clear with how to position that, like what space do you want to take up that's out there, visually and verbally. That then needs to be activated. It can't just sit in a dusty document. It needs to be brought to life, and it needs to be activated out there to allow people to be part of your mission too. And that's where the marketing comes in. So, I mean, first off, the business modeling, if you understand what you're doing, who for, you can start to wrap up some packaging around that. And I say packaging of services, offerings, price points, the model that sits behind the business, that all stems from that too. It definitely helps to have that all in place before kind of going into that. And in terms of the marketing, understanding who you're for, where they are, what to say to them, how to say it, what platform, what medium is going to engage them, like all of these things are made far more easier once the brand conversations have been had. And that's the beauty that Jill does, is go, well, have you thought about this? Or maybe your audiences aren't there. I mean, I'd left Instagram this year largely because Jill, you know, helping me through that, because I just thought in my head, well, I'm a visual business, I need to be on there. Absolutely not. And so really being clear with where you're going to get the best bang for your buck, because you cannot do everything.
Yeah.
Rule 101. And Jill will say, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but she'll say, marketing always works. It's just about being consistent and being at the right place. So I was banging my head against a brick wall with that. So I've now get really, really clear. And that's the thing, is having focus and clarity on what's going to work, but also being playful within it, because like you say, anything does work and things change all the time in marketing. Don't get me started on social media platforms. I mean, it should be seen as a bit of a playground, but in order to know, well, what am I playing with? What images am I using? How am I going to speak to? What am I asking them to do? Like, the call to action is often really forgotten. It's like, what do I need them to bloody do?
So true.
Like, what am I asking of these people? So that's the bit that, you know, Jill will help activate off the work that we do.
Which
right,
is,
Jill? Do you agree?
and it is absolutely spot on, completely spot on. And also, what makes my life so much easier is that once the branding or the brand work has been done, the choices, or the good choices and relevant choices when it comes to marketing, become smaller, you know, because it's very clear what the right platforms are going to be. It's very clear what that target audience wants and needs, because you finally know them well enough, because you've done that foundational work that is brand. So absolutely, you know, the best clients I've ever worked with, I think without exception, probably, are clients who have a really solid understanding of their brand. Because I mean, perfect examples, and I've worked with a couple of clients who Lauren has worked with, and I mean, my goodness, talk about ideal clients. Because by the time they come to me, they already know They understand their messaging. They know what they stand for. They know, they're clear about how they want to be seen in the world. So God, that makes my job so much easier. So yeah, testament to the power of the work you do, Lauren. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. If you're listening and you want a piece of this, which I'm sure you do, and you would love to join us in the Algarve in October, you can head to unapologeticretreats.com, where you will find loads more information, lots more detail, and you can also, there's a link to register, but there's also a couple of recordings from other kind of webinar type things that we put together, or there's an open house and an in conversation where you can get some more information. You know, deciding to invest in yourself like this, it isn't a quick decision. I don't think anyone really just says, yeah, I'm in. You know, you want to build up that trust in us, because we know you can trust us, but you need to know that, and you need to feel comfortable about investing in yourself and your business. But if you're ready, if you're really ready to take your business to the next level and to really align what you're doing with who you are, then I really urge you to go to the website and have a look around. If you've got any questions, also you can email us at yes@unapologeticretreats.com. Okay, thanks so much. Bye for now.